what's the long-term aim of the magazine then? So you've spoken about how kind of you guys are wanting to connect people with themselves, with Sikh history, with philosophy. What's the actual, in I don't know, in like a couple of sentences, if you were to kind of summarize what you're trying to do with this magazine, what is that, or what would you say that is?
Yeah, I think I can speak to that. I would say that for Anhad, our main goal in the long term is just to be able to reconnect our diaspora with just not only their bodies, but also their history and their these Sikh historical authors that they used to be such common names in our households, but I think now as we are moving into like our first and second generations here in America, Canada, in England, I think I think there's a decline in I would say Punjabi literacy. And I think as a result of that, we've seen just sort of disconnect to our Banis. And so ultimately what we are envisioning for Anhad is just for it to be sort of a guide for Sikhs to consult and to read and to engage with, just to be able to go out and explore these authors and this history themselves. We are by no means, the only way to do it, but we just hope to be able to sort of create that connection and that link, for diasporic Sikhs to be able to do this kind of research and to develop in this way themselves. That's kind of the goal in our magazine is just one of the biggest emphasis that we had is being able to not just cite Gurmukhi and Gurbani, but also to enable our readers to understand it. And so, one of the biggest facets in our magazine is that you don't have to be able to read Punjabi or Gurmukhi to be able to understand anything. But it's a great learning tool to be able to, I guess, get a start for where to begin with that. And so we put an emphasis on not only translating our Gurbani, but transliterating and breaking it down word by word, such that a reader can read it and then understand and begin to recognize these words and these phrases, and then be able to read Bani themselves. And so I think ultimately our goal is just to be a tool, a household tool to be able to reconnect Sikhs.
No, touche. When you talk about translations and transliterations, like what is involved in that process? Like, how do you go about doing that? Or is it kind of just a case of, in some cases, like people would just use like search Gurbani or Sikhi to the max or something? Or is there more of an in depth process involved in what you guys are putting out in the magazine?
I definitely think, yeah, so it's definitely a lot deeper than that. We will, one of the things I love about Saki to the Max is it makes searching for Shabads a lot easier, whether you can put in the words and stuff. So, definitely searching for things that we need or pulling it up, we've constantly relied on Saki to the Max in terms of that. But in terms of translations, what I think might surprise you is our translations are actually done by hand. And what I mean by that is we have a staff member sit down, and we have them sit with a Buzurg, and they open up Pai Singh Ji's steak. I mean, he only was able to finish up till like Rag Sorat, I believe. So anything after that, we'll use, by Saib Singh or by Harbans Singh or whoever has done the Shabads and stuff past that. We'll refer to those steaks and we'll go word by word. What does this word mean and how we can put it in a sentence? And that's what we come up with. And then once kind of the very basic definition is down, then in the article we expand on the reflection aspect of that. Because in Steeks, you get the word by word, you get the definition, and then you get kind of the reflection by the author who wrote it, which is immensely helpful when we try to include that reflection into our actual article and what they're trying to say and what the meaning of the Shabbat is. So we've definitely relied on resources to search for things. Great, they're amazing search engines, but in terms of the actual translations that are in the magazine, they have all been done by hand, opening up a steek, and they're all cited too. And Jessica can speak more to that. Um, where exactly we got them from, what poti and what pages they're on in that poti.
Yeah, I think including that in our magazine has been really important just to be able to, um, I guess, gain a level of trust with our readers and that we cite just everything. But with the translations and transliterations, I think it's been really interesting too, that we've just kind of been learning how we want to make this obviously as accessible as possible for English readers, but there are so many like words and just ideas in Gurbani that just don't translate. And so that's also been like a super interesting process is just understanding the Bani ourselves is like step one, and then step two, being able to translate that further for our readers. It's been something that we've had to work on, but I definitely think that the translations and transliterations that we include, I really hope that they're helpful for readers and that we're hoping that you can again like recognize the words and these phrases that pop up and be able to contextualize them in other Bonnies that you read outside of just the ones that we've included in this magazine.
Just to add on to that, I think something that's super key, and I think I really think it's important to emphasize about Anhad magazine is that it's intended for people at all levels of Sikhi. So what I mean by that is it's really reflected in the team as well. And when we went through all these translations and transliterations, I remember like so many of us, you mentioned a team of 26, at least I want to say like at least 5 to 6 people, Jasmine, correct me if I'm wrong, read through each translation. And I think because we all are in different, like I said, different levels, I think with each person being able to read it at their level, each way that each line of Gurbani is translated is just so clear, I think, for so many people. So I think that it makes it, you learn so much from each line and it's so accessible for anyone reading it.
No, no, definitely. One question that I have, and it might sound slightly odd, but in an age where everything is digital, from books to bank statements, like you name it, it's all on your phone or whatever, right? Why have you decided to do a print magazine? I know there is a digital version, like before someone is like, look, Dumbo, like there is a digital version, but what is the thought? Like, why go for something that's physical and in print?
So there has been a problem with censorship, especially with Sikh literacy in the past. So just because there can be blockers put on the internet and like our website can be blocked. And so that would prevent digital access, or sorry, that would prevent access to everyone. So having a physical copy that can be mailed just allows it to be in every house.
There's also a different level of connection when you have something physical versus digital. And I think a lot of our Buzurgs, not even Buzurgs, just like Fajis and Ankushis at Gurdwara, 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, like prefer things in print. And like our audience is very open. It is till like, probably like a junior in high school, even sophomore or freshman in high school to about 50 or 60 years old. So it really can be read by everyone. And to make that a little bit more accessible, especially to the censorship that Praveen's talking about, like you never know what the Indian government's gonna do.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's really important for us to at least maintain something physical. And I mean, we have the digital copy, we have the audio version too for accessibility. So it contributes to definitely all of that. And the other thing that you kind of hit on earlier was the Sikh youth doesn't have anything like this.
No.
I grew up with my dad getting copies from like Baru Sahib and different magazines he had like lifetime subscriptions to from India, and they still get mailed to us today. But yeah, like he would read those to me growing up and I'm like, wow, these are amazing, but I couldn't read them myself. I didn't know how to write Punjabi that way academically. And I just didn't have that skill, and I used to participate in the hymn corps speech competition when I was younger. And so he would get stuff from these magazines and help me put it into my speech. And thinking back on my youth like that, how he was able to have that resource and how we don't have anything like that, especially with the growing population of Sikh artists and exploring that and getting out of the whole doctor, lawyer, engineer appeal. It made sense. It was like, this is kind of the time to do it.
Obviously, then with print magazine, there's like more cost involved, etc. And before we started recording, I think Jessica was talking about some of the logistical issues with like putting this together. I think one thing that I've certainly picked up from talking to you guys just in this little period is that like you guys are serious about what you're doing. There's a lot of time and effort into it. There's a huge team. Kind of there's thought put into every single part of what is happening behind the scenes. I have to be honest, I'm slightly blown away because I didn't think there was such a huge operation behind it. And it's amazing to see. But with obviously putting something together that's physical and in print, there's a huge cost issue. So how have you guys gone about kind of securing the funds for it?
So we've mostly been accepting donations through the This Fund Network and Venmo. So last year we partnered with the This Fund Network, and they were matching any donations that were made for a week in November, and that's going to be coming up again soon. And we've also just had any person who's interested just want to donate to our Venmo, which is at Anhad Magazine.
Brilliant. Awesome. I know it's not out yet, and I think you guys were saying it's hopefully going to be out come December. But from those who have seen it or like those who have had the pleasure to get a copy, that's me included, what has the reaction been like? And you can't paraphrase what I said at the beginning of this conversation.
So, because the magazine hasn't really been released and on a public level, a lot of the reactions we've gotten so far have been through social media, and it's been through the sneak peeks that we've released on Instagram Reels and like pictures. And I think especially towards the art, because you can't really read the articles with the sneak peeks that we've given out, but the art has gotten a lot of amazing reactions. We've gotten people all over the globe. I want to say numerous countries that I didn't even think there's a huge Sikh population in, and they're reaching out. They're liking the posts. They're ordering the magazine. I think we even have a post with all the different countries that we've gotten orders from. And I think especially, like I said, towards the art, there's so many new artists that have reached out to our account wanting to contribute already to the next issue. Same with writers before even reading any articles. So I think that's been really exciting, just to, even when we got that first physical copy and I started receiving all these videos, I know I myself got so excited seeing all that. I'm really excited for people all over the globe to have access to the magazine soon, because I'm sure there'll be a lot more of a reaction, but so far it's been amazing.
Other than that, we have the only other people who've seen the magazine are people who have edited the magazine, but like taken a peek, people who have taken a peek of the magazine for editorial purposes, or making sure that we have not misquoted anything, or we have not like blatantly put anything in the magazine that is very just not supposed to be in there. So we've definitely gotten very overwhelming feedback from people in India, even here, like people, doing amazing stuff. I don't want to particularly say their names, but they've been really overwhelmed, and they've given us really critical feedback to reflect on, especially how to remove our magazine from a colonial lens. I mean, we are still colonized. We are products of the West, who are, a mix in there. So going to a pre-colonial world is going to be very hard for us. But they are able to offer that insight to us and how to do that, right? For example, in Sikhi, it isn't the concept of sin. Like the concept of sin is not really, it's a very binary concept that exists in very Judeo-Christian kind of thought processes, and it's not really how Sikhi frames doing something bad. And being good or bad is a constant continuum, and that's something our magazine hits on with the Gurmukh and the Manmukh perspective in the first article. But yeah, just to see our Buzurgs who have taught us so much be amazed with the magazine and our product, I think that's one of the biggest blessings that our staff can ask for, because it means that we have actually learned something that we can apply to our lives. So yeah.
Yeah, and not just our elders, but also just the outpouring of support from youth that have just been like us. Like, I think when we say that there hasn't been a resource like this before, I definitely feel it in the amount of support that people have given us. People are so excited about this project, this like venture that we've sort of undertaken. And it's been so humbling and so I guess like you truly understand like what your sangat is and how far your sangat can extend when you embark on something like this, and you get just unlimited like love and support from all of these organizations, even just the people in your life. Like it's very different. And I think you know, even when we're talking about funding, there have been people that are willing to donate even before they've held or seen our magazine. And I think that just means so much to us, like just the amount of support that we've gotten from everyone. It means the world does.
So you reached the end of part 2. Part 3 will be released on February 17th, part 4 will be released on February 24th, and the whole episode will be released on March 17th. If you don't want to wait for the complete release, becoming a level 2 member or above of my YouTube channel will give you instant access to this and all future podcasts.